So how to build or grow your PM program. So if you've got to build it, I'm sure everybody here has one, so now we're trying to grow it. Okay? Begin with your life safety systems. Just make a mental note, get a little group together, and say, you know, how often do we check exit lights? How often do we do this and this and this? What are your life safety stuff? Then address your critical operational systems. What is critical to have an uptime? Okay, the front door hinge is broken. Is that critical for uptime? I mean, you can put an armed guard on it if you had to. You know, you don't even need a door. All right, so your critical stuff. Continue until every asset is not a run, until you have every asset identified that's not a run to failure. Some assets are run to failure. Okay, nothing wrong with that as long as you can justify it to me. Little stuff, bathroom fans. You know, some people, I deal with a company that's rents property to the NSA, and they have these beautiful Class A buildings. I mean, you could eat off the floor, brass doorknobs and chandeliers and all this kind of stuff. Government, you know. And not all government, no, this one is. They have a weekly bathroom PM. Remember, plumbing is one of your top reactive calls. So a technician on second shift walks through every bathroom, visually looks, flushes, looks at sinks, looks at floor drains, adds water to the P-trap if appropriate. They don't have bathroom failures. You can do it with everything. So, but the run to failure stuff, bathrooms may be run to failure. How many fixtures do you have in your facility? Ever count them? Bunch. Maybe run to failure is appropriate. Somebody calls and says, hey, we got a leak. You got to decide what's appropriate for your organization. If it's the bathroom outside the president's office, what do we do there? Check it every week, right? Start with a simple check sheet and OEM recommendations. I always start with OEM unless I have more knowledge than the OEM, which sometimes is easy to do. But a simple check sheet of what to check. And then create drive-bys and walking routes to improve and grow that program. You may find that you never have problems with this particular fan. The only problem you have is a belt that wears out. So maybe you don't inspect it quite as often, but yet maybe you check the belt more often. Or maybe you might find that you replace the belt once a year because it typically fails every 15, 16 months. The key is if you have the data, you can determine all this stuff and outsmart it. Well, the book says change every 12 months. Well, you don't need to do that. I did a sort of a data center on the West Coast, and the OEM said, just, you don't change the filters once a quarter. So I go down to visit, and and those of you on the West Coast, I'd never seen them on the East Coast, but the cattle, I don't know what they call them, polishing yards right before they go to slaughter, thousands and thousands of cows, was next door to the building. When we went to go up on the roof, they gave us all those Granger slip-on brown gloves. And I'm like, what's this for? They said, because you could be filthy when you come back down. And there was mud on the roof that thick. They were changing filters weekly because the cattle are out there stirring around, it's dry, and it was a mess. So everybody's different. You got to find out what works for yours. And do it by gathering data, using your head. You don't have to do what it says in the book all the time. And then document everything on the work request. 100% documentation. 100%, every job you all do should be on a work order. Every job. I know, you're going, God, this guy is nuts. Every job. Because that's your data. You go back and look at it and start trending it. How much money did I spend last year on plumbing fixtures? How much money did I spend on changing filters? Maybe I need to hire a filter company. You know, lots of things to think about. Work with a good history. In other words, if you have the history, I can predict your future. In the beginning, every PM cycle should improve the quality of the PM. So technicians should always make the PM better. Like, I've had them come back to me and say, did you do this PM? And they go, no. Why not? Well, that machine's been gone for a year. Why don't you tell me? Always think about adjusting the content and the frequency on the equipment that's your PM. Don't get stuck in a rut and do it every quarter. Why? What's the benefit? Always have a work plan and work schedule. We mentioned that. Review your PM procedures every time there is an unexpected failure. Use the 5 whys. 5 whys is part of the root cause analysis. Why did it happen? Why did it happen? Why did it happen? And then how can I prevent it? Audit your PM program on a regular basis. A lot of people say 5, 6, 7% of all of your work should be audited every year. Did they do a good job? Did they just PM the projector and came back and I found junk and I found paper towels and I found the old filter was laying on the floor? What does your roof look like? Any old filters laying around, or God forbid cigarette butts? Or that's part of an audit. Use outsiders or other technicians for an audit, called a fresh eyes review approach. Use performance measures to trigger audits or at least new inspections. If you've had reactive work within 30 days of a comprehensive PM, you have a problem. Okay? It's like you take your car into for an oil change and in 2 weeks the oil light comes on. There's a problem. Numerous reactive work orders between PMs. So you got a 6-month PM and you got one piece of equipment and you have 10 work orders. You have a problem. It's time to adjust, change, do something different. Catastrophic events. Always audit the PM after a catastrophic event. Why did that happen? And then numerous problems found during the inspection. So you're doing the PM and you find 10 things wrong. Why? Maybe you need to be more comprehensive or shorten up the frequency. And then roughly 50% of all maintenance work should be PM work and predictive. Document equipment readings and measurements. We mentioned that one in the beginning. Transfer the data to spreadsheets for trending and analysis, whatever your software is. Doesn't have to be Excel. But people quite often give me a sheet of paper that's got 50 columns and 100 rows, and they go, there's my documentation. I go, holy crap, where's the top? Just do a trend, do a graph. Now you know, just like that, are you getting better? Are you flat, or are you getting worse? Document condition with pictures. Information about failures is perishable. Okay? It's like buying a gallon of milk and not drinking it. It's going to go bad on you. If you have a problem, take pictures, document, because the data is going to disappear very quickly. And then develop an on-time culture for schedules and PMs. Remember I said never a late PM. That should be your motto. Now here's the definition for what a late PM is. Maybe this will help. A late PM is probably not going to help. You're going to think I'm crazy again. A late PM is 10% of the frequency. So if you have a 30-day PM, you have 3 days to get it done. You don't do the PM in the start of the month and then do another PM at the end of the next month. Okay, really, in actuality, you waited 2 months. Yearly PM, you have a month to get it done. Anything outside of those numbers, it's late. And you document it and you hold people accountable. And in Mike's world, it's on your annual performance appraisal. I know, now I'm really meddling, right? You want that raise? Here are your standards for next year. Or in other cases, if you want to keep your job, here are your standards for next year.